Once again, the ferries were running with no special security. People moved as they wanted, or at least the Vietnamese did. Trade was continuing. In the background, in the countryside, the National Liberation Front surfaced and began wielding political control, with the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong providing security. "72 hours earlier, 10,000 people tried to flee My Tho before the communists. Half made it down rivers to the coast. Many of the others didn't, and some, including defeated military and political leaders, died trying to escape. The road to Xuan Loc, northwest of Saigon, was one poor soldier's resting place. Some refugees had very little, no money for transport. They walked towards Xuan Loc, a town whose fall was last month's headline. An abandoned tank ditch slowed down the busloads of returning refugees, but it didn't stop them, just as it failed to stop the North Vietnamese army. During the heaviest fighting, Xuan Loc was occupied by soldiers only. The Saigon army made its last major stand here. The luckiest residents who came back found their shops and houses were still intact. Many Vietnamese had chosen to stay as the communists advanced, among them a teacher who's no revolutionary.
I don't agree with them to go, to act this way, because we are Vietnamese. We have to live in our country, in the country of our ancestors, and to have the same fate as our countrymen.
So the war is over at last, and it really seems to have been a great waste of time.
Oh, yes, sure.
As people sifted through the wreckage, the local Liberation Front cadres were taking the reins of power. Each time we returned to Saigon, there were always more North Vietnamese arriving. They came on rotation, a sort of communist army's rest and recuperation reward, to inspect the captured palace. Hanoi's navy also reached Saigon to inherit a naval base handsomely stocked by the Americans and abandoned by the South Vietnamese. By now, Saigon was a decidedly schizophrenic city, the world's only communist capital openly selling girly magazines in the short transitional period before the expected puritanical changes. The communist cadres decided it was time the people of Saigon were instructed as to why this was now Ho Chi Minh City. This was the first rally. Re-education was underway.
Đối với lịch sử của đất nước, ông cha ta bao nhiêu năm đấu tranh cho tới ngày nay có hòa bình, nhưng mà phải làm cho hòa bình và độc lập thực sự, không phải là hòa bình trên giấy tờ.
Despite the careful applause, there are tens of thousands of Vietnamese apprehensive about the future. This is one such man. We cannot show his face.
It was also because I was too optimistic about the situation, and I never thought of the fall of Saigon that quick and that easy.
So it took you by surprise?
Yes, it took me by surprise.
The communists have said that they're going to be very lenient with everyone. Do you believe that?
No, I'm sorry, I don't believe that, and I don't believe in what General Tra has been saying of his policy of leniency.
But there's been a very gentle start. There's been no trouble so far, no reprisals.
To me, just because they do not have enough cadre to control the people here in Saigon. Saigon is a big city, and they took over Saigon by surprise also.
So what do you think is going to happen in the next few weeks and months?
Well, I'm afraid that when all the foreigners have left and they have all the sufficient cadre here to control the population, then I'm afraid that the massacre, as I have been worrying about, will begin.
A massacre?
Yes, a huge massacre. I mean, hundreds of Vietnamese people like us will be killed, and millions of others will be re-educated.
Already the new order was making its intentions clearer. Government orders must be fully obeyed, warned the newest slogans in Tudo Street. There was little sign that many Vietnamese would risk doing otherwise. Saigon's black market enjoyed an Indian summer on the assumption that the communists intended doing away with this unacceptable face of capitalism very quickly. The North Vietnamese troops proved avid shoppers. There was further proof that soldiers are soldiers, irrespective of nationality. The legions of Hanoi came and posed and smiled as the French, the Americans and the South Vietnamese had done before them. The extent of official retribution is still unknown. In these early days, symbolic gestures sufficed. The monstrous military gargoyles which dominated Saigon through the American phase of the Vietnam War suffered a predictable fate, like all South Vietnam's discredited political parties. Only now is the full impact of the evacuation of more than 100,000 Vietnamese being felt in Saigon. There are many cases of hardship. Husbands left here after sending their families and relatives into exile. There are signs of widespread regret. But the overall mood is astonishingly benign, forgiving. Of course, that could easily change, for we don't know how much power the South Vietnamese communists will really wield. But this is a much more generous beginning than anyone expected, and so different from what happened in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. These last few days we've been seeing the velvet glove of the Hanoi communists after that initial glimpse of steel as the tanks began warming up in Tudo Street for their victory parade. Theirs was the brilliant victory of a conventional modern army. Without being churlish, one can say it was a gift. The inept leadership, the corruption and the cowardice at the highest levels of the old regime were Saigon's self-created agents of defeat. We have witnessed the military victory. Now Ho Chi Minh City awaits the political revolution.